Okay. So hi, Tammy. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Leah. Hello, everyone.
We're here to do what I've been doing every other week. Of course, I'm doing this because I want people to know that there are several ways out there that people can reach out for different things that they may be feeling, different things that may be going on at this point in time, whether it be mental, emotional, physical. There's so many things that we deal with on a regular basis that, some people do certain modalities that work for them, and then other people, so this way it kind of gives you an idea of the different people and the different types of modalities that are out there to work with, that you may find resonates with you more so than others, and things that you may not have known, going forward. So essentially, this is what it is that we're doing. We're doing this. So this week I have Tammy, sorry. Oh my God. Tammy Roggie. It is Roggie, right? Roggie?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah, it must be Roggie, but I was pretty sure it was Roggie. So we have Tammy. Tammy was an elementary teacher for many years. She began to realize at some point that there was another path that she needed to take for various reasons. She also needed to learn to take more me time, which is something a lot of us don't do. I'm guilty of that. It's something that I'm still working with. I'm still a work in progress for that. And a lot of this has all become part of her path. And of course, Tammy will tell you a little bit more about that as we go, in terms of her path and how she's come to where she is at this point in time. Tammy creates art. She's involved in public speaking, supporting and encouraging others. She writes, which also includes articles and bylines in national, local papers, newspapers. I'm assuming where you are. And
Yes.
published, and she's also published an anthology that's entitled The Ruby Red Shoes. So you might want to check some of that out. Some of you might find that of interest. There are different modalities that she does, which is something that as we go, we're going to break down each modality and a little bit about it so everybody understands what those modalities are and what she does. So I guess, Tammy, I guess what we'll do at this point, let's start with, give us a little breakdown, something about, your life and how you've come to be where you are.
Well, I think it's of great surprise to me, probably more than to anyone else, that I actually call myself an artist. And, I sort of challenge anyone to define what art is and what an artist is, because I really do believe we are all artists. We are all just carrying unique arts within us. And often a lifetime journey of uncovering those, remembering them, and of course, sharing them. So back in 2014, I was on another case of burnout leave from my job. I was a teacher, an elementary teacher in the Waterloo region, and I just kept getting sick all the time, and really, really burnt out. And they often refer to teaching as the golden handcuffs, because they great benefits. The children are wonderful. I've met some fantastic parents who've become very close friends. I worked with amazing people. But I also knew it really didn't nourish me. I felt very depleted by it. And I was a single mom, and I had 2 boys to raise, and I just kept pushing through, and of course taking sick leave and all of that kind of stuff. Excuse me, it's just cold in my studio. I've had it closed up. We're here in an old farmhouse with no insulation.
I would take that in a heartbeat.
The heating bills are really special in the winter. Anyway, I was on a burnout leave, and I had received a very, very profound message in September of 2014 on my 3rd day of school in September. And I knew I wouldn't be at that school for very long. And I remember sitting at the stoplight and in tears and rage and frustration and pounding my thighs, with my fists, and saying, God, you've got to show me what it is I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I can't keep doing this. And I really, really knew. And within 3 or was it 4 days, 4 school days, I was gone from that job. And within that time, I was introduced to a lovely woman at the Paris Public Library. I lived in Paris, Ontario, and she had just come back from India. And I had decided before I met this woman that I was moving to India and I was selling my house. And I had taken yoga teacher training the year before. And it was like, it was as natural as breathing for me, the very first yoga class I took. And so I decided to become an instructor. And so I was going to go move to an ashram, sell my house.
Oh,
And the
beautiful.
whole night. Yeah. And so I was also looking at teaching in Panama. I had contacts, but all I knew was I just needed to get out and take a different path. Lo and behold, you know, my higher self and creator had different plans. My house did not sell. And my partner, who I'm married to now, came back into my life. And lo and behold, here we are, you know, 8+ years later, living in the Ottawa Valley and happily married. And I'm sitting in my studio full of art. So it's been a phenomenal journey. And I started painting with dollar store materials and little 25-cent pots of paint from the Benjamin Moore dealer that they were trying to get rid of. Some of them were kind of
I actually
gummy
have
and
a few of those I use for when we do workshops, right? Vision board workshops. I actually
yes.
have one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was that librarian that my husband introduced me to. And he said, I feel I am supposed to introduce you to this woman named Adele at the Paris Library. And I was like, oh, okay. And she had just returned from India and she was an artist. She came from a family of artists. And she said, do you paint? And I said, oh, I can't draw real pictures. You know, that was my limited understanding of art. She said, whoever said it was about drawing real pictures? So she gave me a few ideas of, you know, go and sort of sketch out your angst in some sketchbooks. And that was sort of how it began. And these stories came out into these cheap sketchbooks, words you know, thoughts and feelings and ideas I couldn't put words to, but the color really worked. And then I signed up for an intuitive painting class at the Halliburton School of the Arts a number of months later. And I thought I had only shared my artwork with a friend privately, and it went public. And apparently there were galleries and art shows and things following my art. Who knew? And so from 2014 until my first, I first put my art into a public gallery in 2017 in Ottawa, I was asked. And then in 2018, I exhibited at Art Basel, Miami. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind. It's been great. But I've learned a lot on that whole journey, and I've had to come full circle because I really got off track and lost my vision.
It's so funny because, you know, and I see this a lot, and it's the same thing has happened to me. I mean, you know, it's the same thing. You know, I had a couple of really well-paying jobs. I quite enjoyed finally the last one that I actually had in office. I mean, I was a legal assistant for years. Knew that wasn't where I was meant to be, and off and on through every job I've ever done, and I've done so many different ones depending on what was going on in my life. You know, and through the course of that time, it always, for one reason or another, would end. And it wasn't like I was being fired. It wasn't like it was something that was malicious, but for what, you know, the contract was up and they couldn't hire me because they didn't have it in the budget. I mean, I worked in Hamilton at one point. I went in on a contract job for 6 months, right? They wanted to hire me, but it wasn't in the budget. So I didn't have that opportunity, you know, administration. Then they were restructuring the office. So there was something that kept happening, you know, same as what you were talking about, same idea. And it's like, okay, I know there's something more, but I don't know what it is, but I know there's something more I need to be doing. Right?
Yes.
And then of course it evolved from there, but yeah, it's such a similar like synchronicity, right?
It is.
Universe works in funny ways. It's like, okay, you're not meant to do this. You've done this for now. You've paid a few of your bills. Okay, it's time to move on now. And you get the hook, no matter how that looks, one way or another, it ends to get you to go to where you need to, right?
Yes, and those of us who are very stubborn and like to control things, it's often a rather violent expulsion, or redirection. It's a big kick in the ass. Yeah, I've had a few of those, so I totally understand that.
I'm not going there.
Well, I to say that I'm an artist is a really huge deal, to be able to say that, because you have to know that in your very being and feel it. And in the last couple of years, I've just gotten off track. I've lost that deep connection with why I started painting in the first place.
Yeah, which was about that.
Yes, exactly. And you have brought these incredible messages through for me. I connected with you and then I go, and you keep calling me saying, I have these messages.
I kept getting these guidances and I'm like, okay, you got to tell Tammy this. Okay, Tammy, we got to talk.
And it's been amazing, because what people don't realize is that what you've shared with me is the intention I started with years ago. And I had been given that message and I knew I was to go in that direction. And then I lost that heart connection. And when you lose that heart connection and that intention, things go off the rails pretty quickly. They don't flow as well.
No, most definitely.
And so I have been sitting with that information that came through you from your guides, and just in profound awe and humility, and going, okay, how do I get this started? How do I start? And so that's sort of where the point at where I'm at. But remembering that a dream I was given in 2016, before we left Paris, we moved back to this area in the Ottawa Valley. In 2016, my mother was very ill. And Craig and I were visiting his daughter one night in February of 2016. And all of a sudden he says, we're moving. And I'm like, what? And he says, yeah, we're supposed to move. And I said, where are we moving to? He said, the Ottawa Valley. And I was like, are you sure? And I kind of got a tick in my eye because I've grown up here. And I was like, I'm not sure I want to go back there. But I knew that if it was coming through my husband, who was my fiance at the time, I could trust it. He studied, with a South American shaman for 10 years, was taken out of society.
Oh, beautiful. I have to meet him.
Oh, you do? He's a very good friend of Vanessa Hurst's, and he's just such a wonderful person. And so I felt that I could really trust what was coming through. And so I took early retirement at the age of 51, and we moved up here. So it's been an interesting time of reevaluating my whole life, getting to know who I am, because once you return to ancestral land, the land where you were raised and the land of your, ancestors, there's something powerful about that.
Oh, yes.
I left at 18 to go to university. I couldn't wait to grow up and get out of here. Then to find myself back here at 51 in menopause, which is a very interesting time on its own.
That's a whole other topic.
That's a whole other topic. And I think we need a whole lot of time on that one, sisters. Also information for the men in our lives. But yeah, so I came back and really was sort of expecting things to go much differently than they did, with reconnecting with family. And of course, you come back, you're a very different person. Everybody's different. I mean, you've been gone for, how many years? 33 years? and suddenly you expect to come back and you're still the golden girl kind of thing, and everything's going to be all white picket fences and unicorns, which I like to believe that's how we should live.
Sure we can.
So it's been a lot of learning, a lot of uncovering who I am and who I am in this context, and then looking at who I am as at soul level and what's my original mission. There's a Natoya Hall. She's a wonderful healer in Toronto. And she said she sits with Creator every day and asks God to help her remember her original mission. And I was like, oh, that's profound. So I feel like I've been brought back here. There are very few distractions. Sometimes I feel rather isolated, but I get a lot of time to sit with myself, which has never been an easy thing for me. So it's been enforced. And so I'm learning a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so true. Through channeled readings of a channeler that I went to for, oh my God, 12, 13 years. It's funny how when you go back to the land of ancestry, because I didn't even know, unbeknownst to me, the place that I was guided to do retreats was on Manitoulin Island. As it turns out, my ancestry is Ojibwe. I was Ojibwe, I guess, in a previous life. So the first time I ever channeled information from the magnitude of ancestors that are with me all the time was when I went to Manitoulin, and it just happened. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. So yeah, I get that for sure. The ancestry part, it's amazing how that works, how much stronger it seems to be. No matter where you are, it's strong, but wow, it really amps things up when you go back to that place.
Yes.
So in terms of struggles and other things that you've gone through, you've talked a little bit about that. What is it in your life that in terms of helping understand people and understanding them, what are few of the things that have happened that help you to better understand other people that you may help?
Well, I have a master's degree in pastoral care and counseling. I became a single parent in the late 90s. And I started a few months after I became a single mom, I started my master's degree in pastoral care and counseling. And then I moved into a master's of divinity because I have a gift of encouragement and public speaking. And I always thought it would be the coolest job in town to be the pastor standing behind the pulpit and sharing the word of God. And I didn't know that everybody didn't think that was a cool job, but I was like, that's pretty awesome. So I won the Homiletics Award for excellence in preaching, and I was asked to do a PhD. But my children were 2 and 4 when I started. And I was watching how the church was, the congregations were chewing up and spitting out their pastors like nothing. And there were a lot of pastors on stress leave and burnout leave. And I didn't want to do that to myself. So I decided to finish with my master's in pastoral care and counseling. And people have just sort of always come to me. But one of the things that I'm learning and that has been really hitting me hard and fast is the fact that I have a tendency to try to rescue people. And
been there, done that. I get it.
You know how that works.
It's hard.
It's very hard.
Very challenging.
When you're already have that bent within you to nurture and to care for people, and then you use it as a distraction almost because you no longer know how to take care of yourself. So for years, I've been told you need to start taking care of yourself. You need to love yourself. I think that's just such a buzz phrase, like a buzzword phrase, and such a cliche. And we need to actually share with people and talk with people about what that really means to care for yourself and to love yourself, because other words, it just sounds hollow. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have any clue what that meant. Florence Edwards, a famous medium from the spiritualist church. I'd wanted to see her since I was about 18 years old when I had my first tea leaf reading, and I'd heard about her. And finally, there I was on my 48th birthday. I moved to Paris, and lo and behold, she lived there, and we became friends.
Beautiful.
And she says to me, she said, you light up a room. You don't even get it. Like, you just don't see this about yourself. And it's time to kind of grow up and really stand in who you are and understand who you are. And I found that in these relationships that I've been involved in, they just keep pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. And when you say sometimes you take the harder path and you get the kick in the ass, there've been a few of those. And so I've certainly been the antagonist and the protagonist.
I think a few of us have been in that position in both ways. I get it totally.
Oh yeah. But I found that, rescuing people is a bad habit.
Oh yeah.
And I'm really discovering that more and more with my own children. And now that they are, now that I have grandchildren, and, you can see them struggling, and I want to just get in there and, make it all better. And people come to me, and they've always come to me to share their stuff. And I'll be like, oh yeah, but I get messages for people, and I'll have something to share, but it's almost like I can't just leave it there because, I've got to make sure they follow through. Damn it.
You just got to remind yourself it's their path.
Yes.
And you can give them some advice with whatever comes through, and then you have to, it's hard. I know it is. I've been that way at times too. It's very difficult when you want to see the best for people. It can be tricky.
Yeah. I think finding, how to be feel good about who I am with the gifts that I meant to share with others, and feel good about where I am in my life, and not allow over compassion or pity for others or feeling sorry for others to get in the way. I don't know how else to describe that, but sometimes I feel deeply, and I know all of the healers and teachers on here understand this, how we feel so deeply the pain, and yet we're not called to get stuck there. And that's a real learning for me, and setting those boundaries.
Definitely. And it's lessons that we're given intentionally to learn to navigate in a different way. If there was something, a seed that you wanted to plant, for people, that's something that they should think about. So if there's something that you think if there was something that you wanted to plant as a seed for everyone, that's something that they should think about.
Well, I know I gave you an answer to this when I wrote it down, and I worked through these questions late at night. But, as I sit here and we're present, and we're in this context right here and now, I would want people to remember and that they've got this. You've got this. You have more power, more strength than you know. It doesn't mean you don't need other people. But that message, that if we can give that to our children from the time that they're small and growing up, that confidence and faith, you've got this, and then help them to step into their power. What does that mean as well? That, there are times when you're going to feel weak, and you're going to need a lot of help, but you're here for a reason. It's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. And I don't know. And the fear thing, I'd want to let people know driving, I've let fear drive the bus so long in my own life, and it's like, kick fear out the door. It's just so unhelpful. It's
And
just
it
so
is.
unhelpful.
So many people, they get to that point where they stay in their comfort zone, and people don't realize, for those that really don't realize, it is the worst place to be. And as I've said to my son, and as I often have said to clients in different conversations, you're driving a car, you're driving along, and you're watching the rear view mirror, right? You're not
Yes.
paying any attention to anything else. You keep watching that rear view mirror. What's going to happen? Right? Look ahead, don't look behind. Glance behind, you got to look once in a while, but don't don't focus on it, right? So that's a big one. That's definitely a big one for people, I think, in a lot of ways.
Oh, for sure. I think that fear is just so toxic, and there are so many things that we need to be taught, or we need help remembering, all of us at different times.
Yeah.
About what does healthy fear look like? What does it mean to step into my power? What does it mean to love myself? Some very basic things that I think are really critical life skills. They're as important as food and water and shelter.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think fear and darkness, is not really as bad as everybody thinks it is. As long as you navigate it, you frame it the way it needs to be framed, and realize that that's okay. I feel this, I see this. Now, what am I going to do to move past this? And what is put before me? What is that lesson? What is it that's being thrown in front of me that I have to overcome and I have to succeed with? Right. So yeah, it's always interesting when it comes down to that. So going forward, if there was something, let me rephrase that. So going forward, in terms of what's playing out in our collective right now, and I typically ask a lot of people, a lot of the interviews that I do, I ask them, what do you think right now that you can do going forward to help what is playing out in the collective?
Yeah.
And we don't have to talk about the whole collective, because there's almost not enough, I think, some days to overwhelm that whole population. But I mean, in essence, the people that you can touch and work with, what is it that you think you could do to help that collective going forward to brighten the energy, so to speak?
Well, I am an encourager, so I have the spiritual gift of encouragement. I often, will sense when I need to share a message, and I paint intuitively. So the energy that comes through my paintings, when people come and actually see my paintings in person, it's this level, it humbles me, because the connection that people have with the art that comes through me is profound. And I'm always amazed, because the intention or the energy with which I've painted something, and which I think is the message, may not be that at all for another person. And so, I never really realized the importance of sharing the gift of beauty with the world. And so expressing beautiful art is, I think, a huge gift, because I am a collector of stories. So I was given that message back in 2016, just before we moved here. I had a powerful dream. I was in a truck. It was stuck in the mud. I got out of the truck. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and there's a store in the middle of nowhere. And I walk in, and I'm kind of covered in mud. And the person behind the counter in the store says, "Tammy, you are much more than you appear. You are a collector of stories." And I woke up, and I knew, with every, vibrant cell of my being was lit up. I knew that I am a collector of stories. I just happen to be a storyteller through color onto canvas. And the stories that come through, I do not know what's going to be expressed. I ask for source to paint through me, my higher self, my divine guides to lead. And then I listen to the paint, and the paint speaks to me. And so I get a real, it's very, very satisfying. And what's even more satisfying is when people really connect to the art, and it makes them, they feel the energy, they feel emotion. And I had really discounted or never understood. I didn't discount, I just didn't understand the extent to which bringing gifts of beauty through design and art was such a big deal. You know, you hear people talking about how art can save us. Well, art is not just painting, it's not just music, but it's so many different forms, and we're each here carrying unique artistic gifts within us. And I just happen to be able to tell stories on canvas, and I love it. I love it. I also sit and I listen to people. So being a collector of stories, I wrote a poem, if I could just read it. I just literally found it. I don't remember writing this. I write intuitively. I also paint
too.
Yeah.
It's here and
So-
go, but if you don't write it down or record it, lost.
Yes. So the messages that come through are in books and sketchbooks all over the house. So something told me I needed to have this big sketchbook beside me tonight and open it up. And I opened it up September 9th, 2021, Collector of Stories. And it's a poem I wrote. Don't remember. I am a collector of stories. Sit a while. I'm happy to listen, to cry and laugh at all the right places. I will remember your small details and will file them away for future conversations. I wish we all took the time to hear and care about those intimate facets of each other's lives, like lemon meringue pie is your favorite, or that you hate the taste of goat cheese, or love the sound of rain on a tin roof. It's endless, the bits and pieces of your stories. I collect them. I hope you feel seen and heard, because I think we all long for these courtesies. Come sit while I collect the fragments and help you retell the parts of your life that don't feel so great. As long as you share, there is space and time to grow and change, to write a new beginning, a middle, or ending, but it all begins with the telling. There is always someone filing away the details and the unspoken words. We are collectors of stories. Yours is worth telling, and you are worthy to be heard. I am a collector of stories. I'm also rewriting and revising my own narratives as you hold up to a mirror to me. I see you, you see me, collectors of stories.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you, creator, for that inspiration.
Yeah, I do that too. So I totally know what you're saying. I've written a book actually that I'm kind of in the editing phase. I'm surprised, as I've said before, the publisher has not fired me yet because it's been quite a while. I've had so much going on, but same thing. You know, I'll be writing something and I'll go back 2 chapters and I inject something and then I'm like,
Yes.
okay, that works.
And then you read your stuff afterwards and you're like, damn, that is so good. That is so good.
Isn't that the way? It's almost like you're patting yourself on the back, but you're actually going like this.
Yes, exactly. You're like, wow, I wrote that. Thank you, God.
Thank you. I know, I hear you. So one of the other things that you had mentioned was that there was something profound that you had mentioned that you had learned about community from your cousin, I believe.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Yes.
so share that with us if you will.
Oh, so we moved back here in 2016. Ottawa Valley, Renfrew County is the largest county in Ontario. It's 8,000 square kilometers. We have very isolated communities. it's a very interesting area, to say the least. Anyway, we could not find a place to rent here in the main areas, which was Pembroke. And I'd never wanted to live in Pembroke anyway, but this house came up for rent in a village named Cobden. I didn't know anything about Cobden. I thought it was just the main Trans-Canada highway going through it and a gas station and a donut shop, and that was it. Turns out my cousin lives there. Now, my cousin Deb is a very wise woman, gets a lot of messages, is a seer, blah, blah, blah. I haven't connected with Deb in a long time. Well, we moved to Cobden. She doesn't know that we've moved there. We're literally around the corner from her house.
Oh, wow.
And so we come from Southern Ontario. I've lived in Southern Ontario since I was 18 years old. I'm 51 years old. And I have gone from 60 miles an hour down to 10 because there is not a lot going on in Cobden. So I'm like, oh my gosh, why are we here? Okay, like walking on the streets was like walking on a movie set. It was a very surreal place. Built on some major international ley lines, but that's a whole other story there. Some of the interesting things that happened while we lived there. Anyway, I remember whining and complaining one day to her about, what has this community got to offer us? Blah, 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 blah. And she says, darling, I don't think that's the right question. A much better question is, what can you do and what can you bring to the community where you are called to live? And I just stopped and I went, oh, that was such a shift. What am I bringing? Why should this community have to, entertain me or offer these things to me? What am I going to offer back? And I just was so humbled by that. And it's always stuck with me now for the last however many years we've been here, going on 7 years in a couple of months. And so that shifted something really necessary within me about giving back, and that whole shift from taking to giving. And then, of course, finding that balance of overgiving, because then I go into that overgiving, rescuing mode. So, balance.
I hear you. I totally hear you. So I know the artwork stuff. I've given you messages that kept flowing through me to you.
Oh yeah.
So with some of that stuff, I know there was stuff that basically, I think a lot of it for you was a lot of validation and confirmation, a few new things, but I think a lot of it for you was like a validation and confirmation. So how do you think you can work with your artwork? So what is it you're looking at doing that can help people through doing the artwork?
Well, the original intention with my work was from a deep heart space, and I knew that each piece was meant for somebody. I knew that when I expressed a piece, that if somebody had to have that piece of work, we would work to make that happen. And so when the galleries got involved and, I was contacted and exhibiting internationally, I had lost that heart connection because it became about how can I get my art out there, marketing, promoting, all that kind of stuff. And it was draining me. And then you came along with that message and you said, Tammy, I'm supposed to tell you this. And I'm like, I know that's what I was originally supposed to be doing. So that's how I say things come full circle when it's time. But I feel like I've been sleepwalking for a few years. I've, just like a lot of people, those deep dives. And I feel like I'm just waking up again. And then you came with those messages, which were, I'm just beyond grateful. So I am able to sit with people, and I'm able to sit in places, and I'm able to tap into energies. I'm able to tap into energies of people and their stories and the stories of places. And I'm able to express those stories onto canvas through painting and mixed media. And so that's the direction that I'm going in with my art, returning to the original knowing. And I'm so glad to be sort of back on track with that, because I found that when I facilitate painting classes, and I facilitate intuitive painting classes, people are always amazed at what comes out in a few hours session where they're painting. They're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know I could do that, or I didn't know that was in there. And so I do commissioned work where I sit with people and tell their stories in a unique piece of art. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So yeah, and I think that's a lot of fun for people too. I think that would be an interesting thing to have the energy read and have a painting you can take home, put with you at this point in my life. This is kind of what was going on, and here it is. This is
Yes.
a full view of what I was feeling at that point in time.
Yes. Now it's interesting because I did one of those paintings. I expressed one of those paintings back in, must have been about 2017.
Okay.
The first time I had done one of these. And I want to call the client because I have so much more that's bubbling up that I feel needs to be expressed on her canvas, because she's gone into a new phase of her life. She's now had children, and things have changed so much in her life, and her story has deepened. And I feel that every time I see her, and I want to just keep adding to the canvas,
I wish there was a good friend of there was a handful of us. We were called Gary's Angels back in my hometown. He was an artist. He was an older gentleman. We all used to get together and play chess. And it's funny, I wish I could remember. I'm tired right now, so I don't remember what it is. But it was something along the lines that basically whatever you create in terms of artwork. He was a painter. I've got a couple of his pieces. When he passed away, he's passed now, unfortunately. I do have a few of his pieces, and they're exceptional. They were unique in every way, shape, and form. But he always made that comment that, again, at some point I'm going to get it though, and I'm going to send it to you.
Wonderful.
But basically, what it was that what you start when you're doing the artwork and whatnot, there's never an end, right?
He's so right, because I have pieces that have been sitting here for a few years and they're still speaking. I know they're not finished. There are others that can be
finished work. And
yeah,
he'd go back and he'd add, he'd do this, he'd do that, all the time.
I feel like no artwork is safe or has finished telling its story. Like when I came in to my studio tonight to get set up, and I'm looking at this painting. I don't know if you can see it sort of behind me.
Yeah, they look beautiful. They're so colorful.
Anyway, I painted that at a time. It would get me out of bed at 1 a.m. and make me come downstairs, and I'd have to paint and do the whole thing. And so I have to honor that. But I feel now that particular story has morphed and could be changed, and I wouldn't feel sad about that.
No, and it's one of those things where that was kind of what it was. It was kind of a something he would say, and it was just basically that it is never complete, right? There is no ending type of thing. But like I said, when I find what it was that he that he had written. I'm going to send it to you because it's very profound the way he worded it. It was absolutely beautiful and very much speaks the same way. Now you also do general counseling, right, for adults?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that too.
Well, I specialize in, divorce, separation, women's issues, life transitions, those kinds of things. I do not work for an agency. That's just my own private practice, sort of scaled fees because, I know what it's like to have need of a space to be, and you need a little help with the financial part. So I do that. I facilitate yoga classes, and if I host an intuitive painting class, we often do yoga, and my husband leads some drumming and things like that. We used to live in a 6,000 square foot hotel when we moved back to this area.
Oh,
yes,
that'd be beautiful. Oh my goodness, the things you could do in there. Oh my God.
we did, and it would take me an entire week to get everything organized and clean that space and have it ready for a group of people. It was a lot of work, but it was fascinating to bring people into this historic place, and lots of energies in there, which was very interesting. Probably a little too interesting.
Yes, as you can see, I've got some of my drums right behind me here.
They are gorgeous. My husband builds drums, and I love these. They're gorgeous. Did you make those?
No, I have a shaman friend of mine who actually created them. I've got a reindeer, a deer, I've got my goat, buffalo, and a bear.
Wow, that's beautiful. I have my husband skinned a beautiful drum for me with the hair of the skin of a young goat, a male goat.
This is, and there's hair all over it.
Yes, mine is covered in hair, and that thing is so beautiful, but very, very has a lot of masculine energy, and has a deep, deep sound. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
They are absolutely, absolutely beautiful.
Wonderful.
Yeah. They call them me. It's one of those things where between those and my foxtails, I've got my red and my smoky.
Yes.
That I work a lot with, and when I'm doing healings. But anyways, that's getting sidetracked. So the other stuff you do is motivational speaking. So in what way would you feel if you were to have either a group of people or even one-on-one? If you were to, somebody came to you looking for, there was something that they needed to do, how would that look?
Well, people can contact me. I do workshops. I develop workshops on compassion fatigue and burnout for healthcare systems. And
from experience, of course.
Yes, I might know a thing or two about it after 3 bouts, what do they say? You teach what you most need to know or something, but anyway,
that's basically why we go through that, right? That's our lesson, to go forward in order to help others. So yeah,
that's exactly it. So I do that. I also spoken like Art Vancouver, talking about art, how we're all artists, and we're all just mining our sort of acre of diamonds. And so yeah, I speak on a number of topics, and if there's something I don't know about, I'll be very honest and say I wouldn't be able to speak on that topic.
Yeah, we know a lot, but we don't always know everything, right?
As much as we like to think we Oh, anyway, yeah, so I can be reached through all of the links that I've sent you, and
a lot of it, I'm sure, can be done online too, right? Like they don't have to live up your way. A lot of this type of stuff, except for the artwork. Well, you could probably do the artwork too. You can sense and feel by seeing people online.
Yeah, but I don't mind traveling. And of course, we have family in Cambridge. So that's, that's our stomping ground.
You need to visit, when you do that.
I'm thinking. I think I might know. Yeah, absolutely. We're planning on coming down in February, so I don't mind traveling anywhere I have to go to do these things because I really like the in person.
Right. Oh, yeah,
Even as
I
a,
do.
don't you find it's just better? I don't
So
know.
much better. I often say that to kids and whatnot, and it's like, well, we can do this, we can do Zoom, we can do this. And I'm going, no, I want to do this.
Yes, exactly. And I remember as a teacher, we'd take professional upgrading courses,
Right.
and we could take them online or we could take them in class. And I took a couple of online, and it was quite awful because you don't get that same exchange of ideas, the same energy.
No, it is. It's completely different. I mean, in a lot of ways, it has helped, but in a lot of ways, whatever way we can get back to being in person, most of the time, I think it's still, it's very important. It's very key going forward. It's,
Yeah, there isn't anything that sort of makes up for human contact, is there? I mean, I've been grateful for the
No.
technology for certain through all of this, and I've
Of
been
course.
absolutely amazed, humbled, grateful for the way that people have adapted and wanted to stay connected. I think it's beautiful, shows that resilience of the human spirit. But I think we have to be careful that we don't use that in place of making the effort to get together. That's maybe that sounds
I
old fashioned.
But in these situations, the one thing that I am grateful for is that, there can be modalities that people have around the world, and they don't have to be in person. As you know, anything energetic, especially, in many ways, we can still function with it. No, it's not as fun, and no, it's not as good as being in person. But at the very least, if people are resonating with a certain type of healing or modality,
Yes.
or would like something done, to be able to do it long distance this way, it is a blessing, I think, in some ways. Although, yes, I do agree. I would much rather be in person than doing it this
Yeah.
way by far.
But the fact that we can connect with somebody in Australia, in Iceland, or whatever, in this way, to me is miraculous. Like, I don't even know how phone cables work. So I've never even understood how you get a radio signal. I'm not a tech person. So to be able for me to connect with my best friend, she's an Ojibwe medicine woman out in Edmonton. We speak almost every morning.
Beautiful.
To be able to do that is a gift. So I absolutely 100% agree with you with this online. We've learned, and I think that's made us realize how connected we are. We're just so connected. It's beautiful, actually.
It is, and a whole other topic, but I think that was, there were a lot of, as awful as things could have been in COVID. One of the things, and I've always been that person to look at I've got the half, not the half cup empty. Mine's always the half cup full. So, from COVID, you frame it a certain way, and to me, I really feel that there were a lot of positives, a lot of things that needed to happen and have been happening, with many things that have been swept under carpets, especially over the many decades and centuries.
Yes.
So, COVID wasn't great, but you know what? In a lot of ways, in the long run, it has really, it wasn't as bad as it needed to be. And again, I think it's a mindset. It's being that mindful, and looking at it from a different perspective, right?
Yeah, I think it, where we live, we're still seeing quite a few people wearing masks out in public and things like that. And at first, I wanted, it just really hit me because of where I stand on it. And then I realized that's that space you have to get into of respecting where everyone is at. And that's key. And also, while, this was all happening, when it began, we actually felt that stillness that happened, that hush at the beginning. That felt so beautiful. Was
it was
right?
it was It
There,
was
there's that song, there's a kind of hush all over the world
all over
tonight.
the world. Good point. Yeah, I never thought of that song, but yeah.
And because of where we live, I feel like that was such a divine thing, where, you know, my husband gets this message that we're to move up here. Excuse me. And we come up here, and we are in this community where we're all just taking care of one another. We're all out and about because we live on a 200-acre farm, and we have good water to drink and clean air. And so I feel like we were very gifted, very blessed.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, most beautiful. So we're starting to wind down here. We still got a couple of minutes. So is there anything else that you wanted to add? In terms of services you offer, how you can help people, how to reaching out. I will obviously put all of the information that you gave me when we repost the replay of the video for those that weren't able to attend with us.
Yes.
You will, we'll put up the links of where people can reach out to you.
Okay.
Right?
I feel like I'm supposed to share that if people are looking at writing their stories down, I also work with people to do that and edit and those kinds of things. So I've helped in that capacity with a number of people. And so yeah, I guess when you were asking, what are some of the things that you have to offer? And I started writing things, and I was like, oh, I do that. I do that.
It's always a whole ball of things, right?
You kind of get used to your own self, right? And you forget that there are people who might want or need some of what you have to offer, because you just kind of take it for granted that that's normally what you do. But I think it's wonderful as well that these online communities have really connected us, like this space.
Yeah.
So we know we're not alone, because we're definitely not, right? And
No.
I don't know. I'm just really grateful. It was Vanessa Hurst sent me a message, and she said, Tammy, people need to know about you and your art and the yoga and the stuff.
It's funny.
And she said, I need to introduce you to Mother Owl. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's funny. I talked to Vanessa the other day. She's actually going to be doing an interview with me as well, like the discussion, the live discussion. But it was funny because we're using you. Obviously, you talked to Tammy, because of course she doesn't always know who I'm interviewing or
Yep.
in these discussions with. I hate interview. It's more discussion. It's more loose to say, kind of chill and get the information out. But and I talked to her a couple of days ago. Actually, we're having a Zoom tomorrow, her and Brenda and I.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was funny. And I said, I got this message, and I told her about the last message that, remember, I told you 2 days before, and then I was like, okay, I called you. I'm like, okay, I got to tell you, I'm going to forget. And I keep doing this poke. I got to tell you. And then I told her the same thing a while back. I said, well, she just got validation and confirmation from me.
You were the third person. So, when things come in
there you go.
I was first told that back in 2015. Then I was told that by Vanessa. Then I was told that by you. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I literally, when I was driving, so I've been, my son and daughter-in-law, they have gutted their house and are rebuilding it, basically old house. And so I have been helping with the grandchildren, and this week and next week I'm getting to spend every day with my 4-month-old grandbaby Lily.
Aww.
And so they are staying with my son's dad, and so I was driving there this morning, and I was literally saying, Creator, how do I get on this track? I know what I'm supposed to be doing. What's the first step? Show me the way, because like I said, I feel like myself, like probably a lot of people, feeling like we're waking up from some kind of induced sleep. And I feel like the energies are lightening for sure. I can feel that in my,
It's a little ways yet. There's a lot of work to be done yet, but it's definitely shifting. It's
yeah,
at a time, right?
yeah, I think there
You
are
know,
still
it's
definitely,
happening slowly but surely.
yeah, and I feel it lifting just little bits at a time. It doesn't feel so dense, you know?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so I'm kind of
Oh.
hanging on to that.
Yeah, don't hang on too tight. It's happening. Let it flow. You know how that goes. Let it go and let it flow. There have never been two sentences together that have ever, ever meant so much. Really.
I agree with
So
you. Yeah.
important.
I think that other thing that I've learned about, working with people and just life in general is that exact thing that when I'm pushing and striving and trying to make something happen, it just doesn't go. And, I was saying to my Ojibwe sister this morning, she's like, we're both talking about things that are happening. And I say, I'm almost feeling this guilt that I have all this information. I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not quite in that space yet. Like I don't have that natural flow sense to it. I'm not in that flow state yet. And you can't make it happen. You can't just force that. And that's been a big teaching because I've always wanted to try and make things happen and get it going and get in there and control that,
I hear you. Well, we're pretty short. We're pretty much up on time. So to everybody, again, her name's Tammy. Wonderful soul. There are different ways that she can help you in a beautifully comfortable way. I will have the links, and by all means, even if you're not sure about certain things through the conversations we've had, reach out to her. Just reach out and ask her. I'm kind of interested in this. You've got some questions, then definitely reach out, ask those questions. And by all means, I'm saying to you, Tammy, if anybody knows of somebody that has some really interesting healing modalities that can help anybody and everybody, definitely send them my way. I want to keep. I'm doing this. I'm booked right up actually right now in interviews right through till May.
Wonderful.
Yeah, there's a lot. So it's just one of those things that I've been guided to do, just to kind of really get the information out there, because there's so many people that need help, and there's so many people that do not resonate with certain healings, right? And there's so many, every time I think, I think I know most of what's out there now, and there's something else, and I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea, right? There's so many unique healing modalities and ways that people can help each other. So this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's kind of a nice casual discussion. It's not a super formal thing. It's just enough to let people get to know who you are, and of course what you do. So again, reach out, don't hesitate. All of the links will be included in the post when we get this up for the replay. And yeah, and there'll be another one in 2 weeks again. And we'll go from there. Yeah, definitely. And anybody that's not on the platform of the WCLC, please do join. It is newer. It's growing, and it's a beautiful platform. It's a private platform in spirituality as well, in growth, getting to know each other. And it's a platform where people really are more unified. They do work more as community. So yeah, join us there. This is where we potentially do a lot of this stuff. So yeah, that I'll have that link as well. I always put that up before the meeting, but yeah, definitely. And I'll send you when I think about it. Remind me if I don't, but remind me. I want to send you what it was that Gary used to say about the artwork.
Wonderful. And I thank
beautiful.
I thank you so much for this opportunity. It's just been so much fun. And Thank you. And
Oh,
everyone
thank
out
you.
there, I hope you all who are listening have a really blessed new year. Really,
I always say happy continuum.
I love that happy continuum. And you know what? As a teacher, I've never recognized January as the new year. It doesn't feel natural for me.
Right.
So I'm always like, okay, happy new year, but I'm not thinking it starts then.
No, I
happy
just look at it as it's a mindset that most have in terms of starting a new year and a new beginning and whatever it is, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a continuum. So wherever you left off at the end of the year, right, going into the next, then you just travel in and set some more things up to do, some more goals, right?
That's a wonderful, wonderful perspective. Happy continuum. I love that. May I use that?
By all
I
means,
love
yes.
Wonderful.
Definitely.
All
So
right,
have a
everybody.
great night, hon. We will talk soon and I will get in touch with you. Yeah, we'll see everybody else, I guess, in 2 weeks and go from there. If I get any more messages, I'll let you know.
I'm happy to receive them. Thank you.
Take care,
I appreciate
everybody.
you.
It was nice to see you all. And yeah, see you on the flip side.
Good night.
Good night, hon.